So for part B of this introduction to Revit, we're going to be covering components as in like furniture. What we're going to also do is add earth, a driveway or sidewalk, maybe some trees. We're going to then go back into the actual clubhouse itself, and then we're going to start applying materials to the outside of it, whether it be siding or shingles or brick. And then we're going to add some other details like wall sweeps. Eventually we're going to be putting this into a plan view and banging off some 3D renders. So let's actually get started first of all by adding some furniture inside of our clubhouse. Now, if you notice right now, we're looking at the clubhouse from the outside in, and we cannot exactly get inside to lay some components in there. So, I mean, what I can do if I want to is I can actually hide components. So instead of actually going ahead and clicking on this and clicking delete and then redrawing it afterwards, while an object is selected, I can go to my little toolbar down here, and there's a pair of little glasses, and that little glass icon is temporary hide or show. So by me clicking on that, what I can do is I can actually hide an element. Now, an element is just whatever is highlighted. So let me highlight that, and the element is hidden. Now, suppose I wanted to hide all my walls, I can do so by actually hiding the category. So let me click on the walls, go back into this pair of glasses, and now I can actually hide the entire category. And you can see all of them are completely hidden. Now, if I wanted to reset this back to the beginning, there it is, reset temporary hide isolate. It is asking me to save the project, which it does in regular intervals, and that is a good idea because realistically speaking, you should be saving your projects every, say, 5 minutes just in case the program crashes. Unfortunately, a lot of students don't listen to me when I really give them that advice, and unfortunately, they learn the hard way. So I'm just going to call this Clubhouse. All right, great. Now everything's all reset. Okay, so actually I do have to hide this element, and I'm just going to click on the edge just to get the ceiling here so it's highlighted in blue. And I'm also going to hide that element too. Great. Now I could, of course, put in furniture from the main floor plan if I wanted to, or I could do it from the 3D house, but you know, sometimes I just like to see them come in 3D, and that's why I kind of do that. Okay, so let me go just like that. Okay. Now, in order to add furniture, I'm going to click on the Components button. And by default, I have a desk and some trees, but obviously I need more, so like any time previous, let's click and load families. Now, I am in the wrong folder, so I'm going to have to go up a couple levels. Oh, just one level in this case. And now I'm going to be looking for furniture. All right, so great. Every clubhouse needs a flat screen TV. So let's go ahead and add that in there. There's my flat screen TV. Let's go back into Load Family. And now I want a TV stand. And there's my TV stand. Now, if you guess there's a bit of a problem, and that problem is my TV kind of broke through the TV stand, you're absolutely correct. We'll come back to that a little bit later on, and then what we'll do is we'll fix that by doing a properties and then do an offset. Okay, so let's go back into components, and let's load family, and let's actually look at some seating. So we'll head into that folder. And I'm looking for a nice comfy chair. I like this comfy chair, so let's go with this one. And here's my chair. Actually, maybe I can throw one on the other side too. You know what? I actually might go into the main floor plan view just so I can see what's going on a bit better here. Okay, so let's go components. Let's grab that chair again. And that works here, and I'll put one right over here. Now you'll notice that not all the chairs are facing the same direction, so we're going to have to do a rotation. So I'm going to hit escape, exit out of the components. Now I'm going to click on this. Now looking at this toolbar right over here, it's very, very similar to AutoCAD, and then I have a lot of the same features in terms of moving, copying, rotating, offsets, and whatnot. So let's just grab this here, and you'll notice how this little arm, so I'm just going to kind of lock it in a 90-degree position. I'm going to left click, and now all I have to do is just start to take this and swing this around. You can see the silhouette drags 180 degrees. Perfect. So now let's go ahead and move this kind of in the corner so we can see the TV a bit better. All right, so let's do the same thing with this one. And just in case you missed it, rotate. The object is selected. Now I have a swinging arm. I always like to have this at an increment of 90 degrees. That way I can swing it down in increments of 90 or 180 really easily. So I'm going to left click, and now I'm going to start to turn it. The silhouette is turning, and I'm going to do one last left click to drop it. Great. Okay, so going back to the TV and the TV stand, there's a bit of a problem. We know that our TV is kind of inside of the actual stand, and that doesn't work so well for us. So let me go ahead and click on my doghouse here. I'm just going to zoom in and click just the TV and only the TV. Now, this is why properties is really important, is because you actually have something that says offset from host. Now, right now the default is 0, so that means it's at 0 in relation to the main floor level. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually raise this 2 feet. So I'm just going to click on here, and I'm just going to highlight the 2 apostrophe and replace it with 2. Click apply, or it'll do it automatically. And then now I've raised that television exactly 2 feet, so it sits perfectly level on the stands. All right, let's see what other furniture that we can actually use to populate our clubhouse with. So I'm going to hit escape, go back into components. Let's load that family of furniture. Let's go up one level, see what other folders there are. Storage, tables, beds. So you can see that you have quite a bit of things that you can check out and see what's going to work for your particular clubhouse. And if you want to have maybe a bit of a coffee table, sure, I can definitely put that in there. And we'll put that right about there. All right. Now, one thing I do find that is a common problem with my students is they get really comfortable working with Revit. And what they do is they go, oh, great, you know what, maybe I'm going to put a back door right over here. Okay, so let's do a back door. So here we go. I'm going to go component. Oh, let's do it from the main floor. Okay, so component, load family. Let's go up a couple levels. Here's my door. And let's just throw a door in here. And you get this error message. Now, if you guess that you're trying to put a door through the component button, it's not going to work. So remember, you have to use this button for doors and have to use this button for windows. You cannot put in doors and windows through components. Very, very common problem. Students do it all the time. All right, so now that we've actually gone ahead and we've done the components and explored some of the libraries, what we're going to do is we're going to actually start to add some earth around this. So let me hit my doghouse. And I'm just going to use my middle mouse wheel to scroll out. And I'm going to hold my middle mouse button to zoom. And now I'm going to go ahead and reset everything. Okay, so you'll notice that my property is kind of floating in the middle of nowhere. So let's actually ground it by putting in some dirt. So let's go ahead and do that by going into our Massing Insight tab. We don't use this tab very often, but it definitely comes in handy when it comes to putting in the earth and the components and driveways and sidewalks. So let's go ahead and do that. Now, this button right over here called toposurface allows us to do that. But before we actually add a toposurface, you will notice that we have an additional layer called site that we have not touched up until this point. So I'm going to go ahead, double click on sites. I got a bird's eye view of this. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put in toposurface. All right, and by default, I'm on place points. So right way out here, 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 and here. I'm just going to kind of click all 4 corners and opposite ends. And I'm going to hit my check mark next. Okay, let's hit the doghouse and see what we got. Okay, great. So now I actually have earth. Uh-oh, there's a bit of a problem though. If you guessed it that our floor is looking a little wonky, you're absolutely correct. So yeah, we got a problem in that respect. Now the reason why it's doing that is because if you recall, our floor for our clubhouse is set at 0, 0. Now our toposurface is also set to 0, 0 too. So what we need to do is we need to do a slight minor offset negative. So we're going to actually move our earth just a little bit down so they don't overlap into each other. Now there are other ways of dealing with this, but I'm just going to just show you a very easy way of doing it. So let's go ahead and we're going to just redo this topple surface part. So let me click on just the edge of the topple surface. I can't select it from here. I actually have to click on the edge. I'm going to hit my delete key on my keyboard and we're going to start again. So double click Site. Zoom out if you haven't already done so. Click on topple surface. Now, before we start dropping the points, you're going to notice that we actually have an elevation. So that means I can move my earth up or down. So since I want to move it down ever so slightly, I'm just going to put a negative number in, and I'm going to leave it at a negative offset of 0 feet, but 2 inches. So everything's going to drop 2 inches, and that'll make the world of difference in this case. So let's drag out my points. Great. Now I'm going to hit my check mark and hit my doghouse. Now when I zoom in, you can see that I can see my little front porch, and it's not having two different types of materials overlap each other and giving you this dithering effect. All right, judging by this though, I don't particularly like how I have dirt everywhere, because when it rains, it's just going to be completely mud boggy and terrible and all that sort of stuff. So what we're going to do instead here is we are going to change the material of this topple surface. Now in order to do so, same thing applies, is I have to go ahead and click. So everything's on blue, and the only way you can do that is if you click the edge. Now looking at properties, it says material and it says by category. And so what I want to do is click on where it says by category right here, and as soon as I left click, I got this small little button with 3 dots appeared. So I want to click on that. I'll wait a moment, and here is my materials editor, and yours will look slightly different than mine. So what you'll have to do is click on this button right here so you have a dual pane. So if you don't have that dual pane button, you got to click on this. So you do have a dual pane, and I'm just going to move this up here so I have a split plane then. And of course I could always make this bigger or smaller. Now I need to find grass. So if I want to find grass, let me just go ahead in my search bar. I'm going to type in grass, enter, and then I have grass and plants. I would prefer grass, and I'm going to click on this little arrow right here, because what I have to do is I actually have to take this material, which is in a library, and I actually have to add it to the project. So that's what I need to do. Now, if you don't have this button clicked and you don't have like a split view, that is going to be a problem. So you have to have the 2 panes on here to actually get that. All right, so let's go and add the grass here. Perfect. Now I'm going to click on OK, and I'm going to unselect, and it looks gray. So you're thinking, well, why is it drab gray? If you recall from part A of the video, when we looked at shaded, it just gave us very, very basic kind of colors. It doesn't give us textures, and it doesn't give us any realism. So I'm going to change that now by going right over here and changing it, because originally we were on hidden line. We changed it to shaded, but now what we're going to do is we're going to go into realistic this time. So let's hit realistic, and now you can see I actually have a pattern of grass. Right? I don't always recommend that you work in realistic mode, especially if you have lots of different trees or your structure is immense with lots of different components, textures, materials. It will really bog down your computer and slow it down and make it unbearable to work with. So my preference is I typically like to work in shaded, but when I want to see what things are looking like to see if materials match, I'll always go into realistic. And so right now we're in realistic. Okay, so that's that part. Now, after I've actually added my topple surface and I did a negative offset of 2 inches and changed the material to grass, I want to actually create what's referred to as a subregion. And a subregion is just, maybe we could make a sidewalk, or maybe you have a garage and it requires a driveway or a path or something like that. So that's what we're going to do. So again, anything related with the topple surface will always be on the site level. So let's give that a double click. All right, and now I'm going to make a really nice big sidewalk that connects to the house. And in doing so, I'm going to click right here on subregion. Now with a subregion, just like before, you're drawing lines, you're connecting them and enclosing them. So I'm going to make a very large path, and I'm going to use the line tool. So I'm going to go like this, and supposedly I got a garage over here. I'm going to extend this outwards. And if I hit the check mark and get an error, you guessed it, I have something that is not bound together and it's showing me. So let's go continue to sketch. Let's grab that line tool and fully enclose everything. Great. Let's hit the check mark. My doghouse. And there it is. Okay, well I got a dirt path, which is easy because you know how to change it because we changed the grass, or sorry, the dirt to grass already. But there's also a bit of a problem. You'll notice right here that this line is not quite connecting to the house. Now, the reason being is because when I was in the site view, I could have hid my roof if I wanted to. And then what I could have done is I could have then pulled the line all the way. You can definitely do that too. Another way is you can always edit your boundaries no matter what you do, whether it is a ceiling, whether it is a floor, whether it is a subregion. So let's click on this so it turns blue. And just like we did an edit on the floor, the program is very consistent. We have the option of editing the boundary. So let's go ahead and edit that boundary right there. And now I've got my lines. I could be on site level if I want to do this too, but you know what? I'm already in the doghouse view, so let's just pull this line right up to the house and hit the check mark. Great. Let's orbit around, and now you can see it. Now again, as a review, if I want to change the materials of this path to concrete, I can do so. So I will click on this so it's highlighted. And if you recall, we're going to be going to Properties and clicking on where it says by category. As soon as I do that, I have these little 3 buttons I have to further hit. Alright, and I'm going to do a quick search to concrete. And there it is. I have a bunch of different ones. I'll just go with a concrete lightweight. Sure. Good enough. I'm going to click on OK. And there it is. Now I have a nice path that might, be the sidewalk of a house, a driveway, and I can continue adding those extra subregions if I need to. Okay, so got some grass, I got a sidewalk, and now what I probably need to do is add some site components, as in trees. So let's go ahead, click on site components, and as soon as I do that, you can see right in here in the properties, I've got lots of different trees to choose from. So I always like the Japanese cherry. I think it's pretty colorful. I'll just drop one right there, and maybe another one there. I do like maple trees. So maybe I'll grab a Japanese maple, and I'll put one here, and I'll put one here. The rule of thumb for me anyways is you don't need more than 8 trees. Your program will crash, especially if you're in a realistic mode. So please be aware of that. All right, and let's hit escape. Even as I start to rotate and move, you can see it's a bit more laggy because I have those trees. Not quite as smooth. How to fix that? Well, let's go back and change it from realistic to shaded. Way smoother. Not nearly as laggy. Not nearly as pretty, but not nearly as laggy. Also, one thing I might have not demonstrated or taught correctly is when I do look at that materials editor. Sorry guys, I clicked on the wrong button. This is the button that you have to expand to get both sides of the material library. I was clicking on these ones, not too sure why. Okay, and then of course you can then do that. So remember, the top pane is what is in your project. This is in all the other material folder libraries that you have, which we're going to explore a little bit more later on here. All right, so that's that part. Okay, next thing that I want to do is I want to start adding materials to my clubhouse, not only on the outside, but on the inside to make it look a lot more attractive. All right, so in order to do that, what we're going to be doing is heading over first to our Manage ribbon. Now, by clicking on the Manage ribbon, I'm looking for this little materials icon right over here. Now, the reason why I'm doing this step first is because in the actual project itself, there's not a lot of materials added, and I know I need to add a lot more materials to my project because I'm not going to make my roof copper. I'm not going to make my interior wall purple. I got some wood textures, not very nice. Maybe I want some brick. So I don't have a whole lot of materials in the actual file itself. So we're going to have to look for a lot more materials. So if you haven't already done so, again, you go on Manage, Materials, click on the material. If you don't have this already rolled out, you definitely want to roll this out. And I'm just going to click on the Home just to expand that. And there's all my materials, and they're all organized according to category. So supposedly I want shakes. I could probably go into roofing, but I like the search bar better, so I'm just going to type in shakes. And there it is, I got a wood shake. Select it, but don't forget to hit this up arrow to add it to the project. Now when I hit this Appearance tab, you get a really nice preview of what it looks like. Okay, so let's try a different material, and the different material is going to be siding. Okay, so I got some different siding. Perfect, I got this siding clapboard. Again, I want to add this from the library up into the project. And here is the appearance of what it looks like. Now, I'm going to type in wood for wood flooring. So when I type in wood, you can see I got birch, bamboo, ash, and the list goes on and on and on. Quite a bit of different stuff. I will go with the cherry wood. Select it, add it to the file. Oh, it's already in the file, so that's fine. I don't need to worry about that. But you know what? I'll just go cancel. Maybe I'll pick a different one here. Let's go wood planks. Sure, and you can see kind of like the preview of it too. Okay, what else do I need in here? Brick. I love the look of rich brick. So let's go ahead and click on brick. And I will go have a look at what we have here. Let's see this one and have a look at the preview. Yeah, that one's not too bad. Maybe I can add some other ones too. Yeah, that's more of a traditional common one. I like that. So I'm going to click on OK. Okay, so at this point, when I clicked on Manage Materials, all I did is I said, I want to pull these materials from the library into the actual project. Now, for whatever reason in Revit architecture, and I don't know why, I add materials like this sidewalk or the toposurface by going into the properties. Doesn't work that way for the rest of it. And again, I don't know why Revit architecture created it this way. You know, that's just what they decided on, and you know, that's what I gotta kind of roll with the punches on this one. All right, so now after I add my materials, instead I have to actually now go into Modify. Under the Modify, I'm just gonna do a mouse over on the different materials. And so when I click on that, now I'm actually ready to paint the surfaces of my clubhouse in different materials. So I click on that, and you can see here a bunch of different materials that weren't in here before are actually now added. Okay, so for example, I want to put some wood shakes on here. So let's click here. Just going to do a quick rotate, and I'm going to click here. It's a roof, so I don't need to do the sides because the wood shakes will sort of expel the water and kind of make it shed. Usually what you have is you have fascia on the side, so we don't need to add, you know, like that. That's not common. So I'm just going to go Control Z on that one. I also accidentally closed my material editor. All right, so I want to put some siding on, so it's all alphabetized. I could scroll this way, or being more efficient, I'm going to type in siding, and there it is. And now I'm going to add some siding here, here, and also on the back side. Now you will definitely notice that my computer is much laggier because I'm in realistic mode. If I was in shaded, this would go a lot faster, but I wouldn't see how good it looks at this stage. And let's just clear my search here. Okay, awesome. Now I will put in some brick here. And in order for me to put on some brick, I can do kind of the wall part brick and part siding. In order to do that, you're going to be learning a new feature, and this feature is called split face. And split face allows me to take a wall and just basically chop it into two, so materials gets added to one half or the other half. So in terms of where that button is for split face or split element, here it is. So I'm just going to click on that, split element. Now I hate to say, but this tool is definitely tricky here. So what I want to do is I want to cut this wall here in half. So in order for me to do that, I actually sort of have to hold this on the corner. And you see I have some measurements, and I'm just going to put it to about 2 feet. So let me click on the corner of the wall, roughly 2 feet, and I'm going to left click. And now you'll see it just put a line just like that. Alright, so when I select my wall, I've got this half, or this half, where this one is fully intact, or this part of the wall is also fully intact. Okay, so why did I do that? Because if I go back into my paint can here, and I type in brick, and I definitely liked I believe it was a common brick, I can apply it just to this section and this section only. Obviously I've got a bit of a problem. There's a bit of overlap right here, so I'd have to split this other wall here so I don't have this little bit of siding showing up. The reason why you'd add more than one material to an exterior of a home is so it doesn't look boring. It breaks it up. It makes it look more interesting. If you have a house that's all the same stone, it's overpowering. If you have a home that's just siding, it's kind of just boring to look at. So let's go ahead and actually start working with that split face again, or split elements. So here's the button. Alright, and if you recall, it was about 2 feet off the ground. So I'm just going to rotate over here. And now what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to come right over here. It says 2 feet to the left. I'm going to click, and there's that line right there. Okay, awesome. Now I'm going to come over here, do the same thing. I'm going to check on the right hand side. It says 2 feet. It's important for me to remember that measurement. I'm going to click on that, and it's split again. Okay, and I can't quite see the corner of that wall. I'm going to come over here. Now I'm probably going to have some problems with this wall, and this is kind of common in using the split tool. Now you'll see that I'm trying to use this, but it's going to the wall I've already split, and it's not going to this wall right over here. So here's something cool we're going to do is we're going to actually isolate this wall. Just like we can hide things, we can also isolate things at the same time. So I'm just going to hit escape on my keyboard. And of course you notice that I've split all the other walls except for this one, because my split element will just not connect to the corner of this. So here's what we're going to do instead. I'm actually going to click on this wall, and I'm going to now go to my glasses icon. And what I want to do is, in fact, I want to isolate the category so everything else, oops, sorry, isolate element, my bad. Control Z. Let's click on that again. And now I just want to isolate just the element, not the category. Okay, great. Everything is still there. We're just working with this one independently or on its own. So let's go again back to split elements. And I'm going to go from the bottom and try finding the corner. Again, this is a super frustrating tool to work with. I know that. I'm just going to try rotating at a different angle here. Hopefully going to find this. Ah, there it is. Okay, recall 2 feet from the ground. Oh, just lost it there. And I'm actually clicking on the side of the wall. That seems to be working the best. Finally, there it is. I've split that element because I isolated the wall. Let's reset everything. Great. And now you can see it's completely level all the way around my clubhouse. So let's grab that paint bucket again. Type in that material brick. And now what I plan to do is go ahead and apply this all the way around. Great. Now it actually looks pretty cool. It's coming along really nicely. Okay, so that's the outside. What about the inside? So to start painting the walls and the surfaces inside, we're going to go ahead and we're going to start to temporarily hide this. Roof and ceiling. Great, now I can see inside. Now if you have a home that's kind of like drab gray for walls, that might be the style currently right now, but I want to see you put in more effort into your assignments and projects by changing it so I know that you actually have an understanding of that. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to actually make a custom paint color to actually go on these various walls here. Before I do that though, I almost forgot to actually give a wood floor because I love hardwood. I'll just go wood planks or like a laminated floor. There we go. Okay, great. Now let's look at doing some paint colors. Now, if I want to add a paint in here, I actually have to go back into my materials editor. If you recall, the materials editor is where you actually assign materials and take them from the library and place them into a project. But the materials editor also allows you to take paint colors and customize them. So let me go back into Manage. From there, I'm going to click on the materials icon. All right, and I'm going to type in the word paint. All right, now I'm just going to grab some different paints. Like I do have some paint in here, but are you going to paint your walls bright yellow? Likely not. So what I'll just do is I'll just maybe just add some other materials and we'll modify them afterwards, okay? And this will be the basis of our paint color. All right, so great. So I still have paint in here and it's giving me all the different ones that are paint related. Let me go first of all to parking stripe. Now, again, I know we're not going to do this in yellow. So instead what we're going to do, again, is click on the Appearance tab. On the Appearance tab, what we want to do is we want to come to this little color band, click on this, and now we can give it a different color. Maybe I want sort of a beige color. So let me click on the browns, and this is definitely brown, but I also have much lighter tones and hues. So I want a beige color. That's definitely beige. And there it is. You can see the preview. It's much more beigey. Supposedly I actually want to create a nice feature wall with a bright color. Well, I'm going to take another one of those paint colors here after I've searched out paints. And then again, taking the color band, I'm going to click on that. And I'm going to be looking for sort of kind of a natural kind of green to give it a nice pop or splash of color. And I'm going to click on OK, and there's my preview. And that's what I'll also go with. You can also see that you have different finishes. If you want it glossy, you can have it glossy, or maybe just like pearl. So that just ranges from like flat paint to kind of like gives a bit of a reflection. And I'm going to click on OK. Let's click on Save the Project. Again, I know I should be doing that on a much more regular basis. Okay, so let me take my paint bucket. I'm not too sure why this got painted green, but that's fine. And I'm going to take my paint bucket. And let's have a look here at my paints. There it is. I want a nice feature wall. Nice and bright. Okay, let's find the other one. This is actually faster. Or sorry, parking. I should have just put in paints. But it should still find that for me. There it is. Okay. And let's click on this. And I know it's showing yellow here, but you'll notice it's actually showing beige over here. So don't worry about that. And I could just go ahead and click on that. Now, don't also panic too, because supposedly I am in shaded view doing this. You're like, oh, that's not the paint color I wanted. It's not, but it's okay, because when we go to realistic, those are the paint colors that you selected. So it's in realistic, or when we do a render a little bit later on, is the one that's going to actually make the largest difference. And so that's the one that really gets applied in that case. Now, I've also got the question from students as well. I'm trying to do, say, this wall in one color, and I'm trying to do this wall in a different color. How do I do that? Because, you know, Mr. Petrovic, you like, you know, kind of did a split face on the side of the walls, you know, to add brick and siding. We can also do that too. We're going to also use a split element. So here's how this would work. Let's just close this off. I'm going to go into my main floor plan. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to just split the wall just right over here. So again, from the modify, I'm going to go over here, and this is going to be my split element. And I'm just going to go ahead and just split the wall just like that. So when I hit my doghouse and look at the back side, now you'll see that instead of being 2 walls, I now have 4 sections of walls I can select. Alright, so let's grab the paint bucket. And this is beige. And oh, you'll notice that this one is also still beige because I also have to do a split element to that bottom part too. And I'll let you figure that part out too. But that's how you do it if you want one wall, one color vertically compared to another one. Now I also have students ask me, well, what if I want one room, say tile, and I want one room, say hardwood? Well, you can do that. So if you recall when you drew your floors, you have to just do one bedroom, hit the check mark, and then you'd have to again, of course, go to floor again, draw another floor, hit the check mark, and then go to floor again, and so on and so forth. I'm not demonstrating because hopefully you feel comfortable enough with this program in order to do that on your own. And so with that, we are going to conclude this video. But before we conclude, I'm going to show you one quick thing, and that's with something called wall sweeps. So wall sweeps are just a way of adding trim around things. So let me go ahead, under wall, here's my wall sweep. And I'm just going to take a wall sweep and I'm just going to add it right above the door. Nothing happens until I reset the wall sweep. And there it is. Now you'll notice I have horizontal and I have vertical. So I'm going to actually put in a vertical wall sweep this time. And I'm just going to come right over here. And I'm going to come over here. And I'm going to add one here. Whoops, I have to reset that. That's my fault. Okay, so let's try this again. So there's a wall sweep, reset it. And there is another wall sweep, and I'm going to reset that. Okay, so that's quite a strong trim around there. I can actually dial this back quite a bit. So I'm going to take my modify, and I'm just going to grab the grips, and I'm just going to scale it back. Oh, it needs to be scaled back just a little bit more. Now the reason why you add wall sweeps around windows and doors is just to add a little bit of extra depth and interest. It also becomes a focal point because you have some strong lines if we're talking about elements and principles of design because they apply to architecture. And I'll move this down just a little bit so it's flush on the corner. And I could do the same thing if I want to with the windows. And wall sweeps are like any other surface. What you can do is you can actually, put that really down. You can actually apply materials to it. Okay, so now I'm at the end of part B for the video. So the next and final video in this installment is going to actually look at banging out photorealistic renders both on the interior as well as exterior. And we're going to also put everything onto a plan so it's perfectly scaled like a blueprint so a contractor could actually see the plans and build it, or maybe you're presenting to a client who's interested in buying and you have a great concept. So that's the end of part B. Again, I encourage you guys to go back if you are stuck with some of the concepts and go back as well too and review some things if it's not so clear, and if all else fails, please contact me.